dad taking pictures and talk to him. And
Hey, good picture of you in the transcript last week,
Yeah,
huh?
thank you, thank you.
I love soccer. My son plays soccer.
I went to a soccer
Mr.
game once and I
Chair?
saw a goal.
Real? When was that? What year was that?
After we have, the public, Josh will probably do his report, then public hearing, then can we go to Patrick's presentation after that?
Okay.
Only if
That's
it's
okay.
under 10 minutes.
Only if it's going to be brief.
Okay, hold on. We'll wait for Michael to get back before we get started here.
Jeez, he's here for 5 minutes.
I know, he's gone.
Cindy will not be here this evening, she told us that,
Okay.
but she will view minutes,
Okay.
she'll view the program and then write up the minutes.
And North Reading football does not have a game this week, correct?
Yeah, they have a bye week.
Bye week.
It's in Josh's notes.
And who's their next game against? Do they have any more out of league games?
They
or-
have, no, the rest of the league.
They're all division.
They have Georgetown,
Manchester.
Manchester, Essex, Ipswich, Hamilton, Wenham, and then Linfield.
Wow.
Oh, so yeah,
It
so
is,
that's
you're
it.
right.
So I think you're right. Linfield and Hamilton Wenham are the
They
only.
could be tough. And Linfield's in Linfield this year, too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They got a chance to go 9 and.
Go into the playoffs.
9-1.
Go into the playoffs. They don't have to go 9.
Do you guys play today?
Yeah,
Who'd you play?
Linfield.
You beat
How'd you
them?
do?
I'm
1-0.
looking
Did you?
at the
Nice.
video.
Was it here?
No, it was away. The girls are home on the turf right
Oh,
now.
nice.
So you guys are 5-3-3 now.
Mhm.
Good.
5-3-3.
Ready to start, I'm part of Josh's presentation.
Oh, you are. You all set? Okay. All right. Well, we're executive session, so we're bringing the meeting back open in open session. And the first part of business in open session is for public input. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard? Public input? Seeing no one, we move to the student report, and we have Josh and Torcio from the class of 2013. Josh?
The athletic boosters and music department have created the Super Hornet Crunch, which, as you can see, Ms. Ford is standing out.
Hold on.
Oh,
Vanna.
are you gonna be able to?
It's a fundraiser to help the music department and athletic boosters. They
Are
can
they
be
really?
purchased through Mr. Norton's office for $5 a box.
Wow.
Do you know the ingredients of these, Josh?
No idea.
It looks like they
They're on
have.
the side.
Is it Raisin Bran kind of?
Yes, oats,
Yeah, I think
corn.
I
Do we have any milk?
Actually, I don't have any milk at home. I'm glad you reminded me. I have to stop on the way. So
Yeah, it's on here.
Super
Look at
Hornets
this.
Crunch.
this is great.
High level of protein in this. Nice.
So $5 a box.
Yep.
And who has them? John Norton.
Mr. Norton, yep.
I think
Those
we
are
might want to
yours.
get a picture of these in the. Have we had this in the? I know we had a story in the transcript. We had,
No, not a picture.
not a picture though, right?
Sorry.
That's for
We'll
you.
have to send a picture. Oh, and look at this. It has the picture of the new high school on there. Isn't that the new high school?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
The new high
Yeah,
school.
it's almost done.
Isn't that amazing what you can do these days? The new high school is
It
just
looks
doing-
great.
Yeah, this is awesome. How many boxes do we? You know,
5,000.
5,000.
No, it's not a current picture.
5,000.
It's not a current picture.
Serious?
Yeah, it's 5,000 boxes.
are we selling them through stores also, or?
Let me, you can obtain them at Ryers. They're selling them for us, right?
Nice.
And $5 a box. And it is the athletic boosters along with the
Music department.
music.
Jeez, that's cool. That's great the way they did the boxes.
So it's a collaborative fundraising
Scan
effort.
it. We'll scan it.
Oh yeah. It has a little QR code on here. It must give you some information. I'm assuming on either the cereal or on the school. Hopefully it's on the school. But
There's
Karen will
no
find out.
prizes in here or anything. Right?
I have no idea.
This is very good.
That's cool.
I'll put that there for the rest of the meeting. Great.
Take that away from buffets.
That's cute.
All right. The student council will be presenting, is running the can drive through the entire month of October. There's boxes out front, the main office, and in every power walk. Girls soccer is playing currently against Linfield right now on the turf under the lights. Football won last Friday, comeback win 17-14 versus Pentucket. They're now 4-1. Field hockey is away at Linfield today. Student council officers will be attending officer shop at College of Holy Cross this Friday. Welcome back dance was the 28th of September. Most of the attendees were underclassmen, but look to present it to the whole school. Juniors and seniors will be having an assembly on Wednesday about texting and driving. Senior superlatives voting will be due this week, so we'll get all those votes in. College info night was last Thursday for seniors and parents. Maskers is having their costume sale this weekend, selling all their old costumes and props. PSATs are October 20th. The junior class is having a fundraiser at Zynga in Reading on Friday night. It's a frozen yogurt place right in the center of Reading. Teachers had a professional day last Friday, so students had a 4-day weekend. Cross country ran the Tufts 10K this weekend at Tufts University. Golf has a match at Triton today. Volleyball was home versus Linfield at 5:15. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month for the football team, so they wore pink socks in the game on Friday and pink various things. And football has a bye week this week, so there's no game. And boys soccer won 1-0 against Linfield.
Who was the goalie in that game?
That was me.
Oh.
It's
Great.
always good to beat Linfield, isn't it?
Yeah, always good to beat Linfield.
And my student work, my printer broke, so I wasn't able to print it out, but I'll just talk about it. It was
You're
an
being
essay.
green, just so you know. You're being very green.
Yes, by not wasting all that paper. That's excellent.
It was an essay we wrote in my AP English literature class, and we read a short story called Hunters in the Snow, and the main theme was violence, and we had to discuss how the author used violence to take a psychological look at all the characters and how they reacted and how we learned about the different characters and from their actions involving the death of or shooting of their friend.
Any questions for Josh?
No, it's great. Thank
Keep
you.
that momentum going for the soccer team.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Shocking. They haven't activated their dummy.
Okay. Well, this is exciting. So get your Super Hornet cereal from. Does John Norton have 5,000 boxes of this in his house?
He's got it in
or-
his car.
In his car, he's just driving around with them.
He's just driving around with it.
And you can get them at Raya's too, and who knows, maybe a few other places at some point, hopefully. That's a great idea for a great fundraiser. I'm not selling my box though. I'm having breakfast tomorrow.
What's the Best Buy date?
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so next we're gonna switch the agenda around a little bit, and tonight we have Patrick Daly here, and Patrick's gonna give us a presentation and an update on professional development for teachers and administrators, or
Yes,
both?
the
Okay,
entire professional development plan.
okay.
Hi, Patrick. Yes, we
Oh.
moved.
I was going to show the website, so if you
All right.
don't mind.
I am. Leaving. Soccer's actually really good.
Yeah. They get that big tie against Masco.
Yeah. I've been to 3 games. They're pretty good.
He's a shot at school since my son.
yeah.
Since my son was in there.
He's good though. He's really good.
He must be.
He's a good athlete. He's done a lot of training and stuff. This is pretty neat.
It is very nice. Our shoe gets right on from
We're coming on here. We've been working for a bit now to develop a document, a hands-on document to share with you and with the community. It is posted on our website, outlining our professional development plan for this year. And I thought I'd just take a few moments to go through it with you, and then perhaps some questions that you may have. Getting this guy up and loaded here. And I can start talking about the document a little bit. Do folks have a copy of this?
Yes.
Yes, they do, Patrick.
So. So what we have done, just for the folks at home as well, like we've put under academic services, under professional development, we've been putting a lot of things up on our website. This is a website we've created in the district. This website talks a lot about our professional development in North Reading. Some of the elements that you'll see in this document are located here. There's also specific information about each school year. There's also a section here for teachers to help them through things like using our different, we have a system in town called My Learning Plan, where teachers are able to track their professional growth and also get permissions for days and through an approval process. There's lots of information here that explains different salary incentives and credits that we offer for in-service credits. There's also a section here to help teachers understand about their requirements of professional responsibility for licensure, relicensure, and there's lots of hands-on, for example, on this one, links to the Department of Education website, and also just lots of information to help people as they're on their journey for professional licensure, initial licensure, or preliminary licensure. There's also information on here about our mentor program, which is another facet of our professional development. This is for our new teachers and the teachers who are new to the program. So there's information here about the trainings for our staff and the new teacher orientation program, including our mentor handbook and all of the aspects of that program. I will just show you an example of what we have up here. This is from last year, but it describes all the dates for the year, some of the things that we've done, and then we will include, it's taking a minute to load here, but I will include always the agendas from all of the days, which are also included in your packet here. But as they come available this year, we'll be adding them, just like this. And it's taking a moment to load, but there's pictures, sometimes videos or clips from our staff development. So it's a great way to communicate with the community and to be transparent about all the great things that we're doing here in North Reading. These pictures, which are taking a moment to load, are from our January 3rd day last year, and they show all of our educators engaged in technology of their choice. So teachers had a choice, and they were able to choose from different technologies that interested them, and the pictures show them engaging in all these different activities. So this is our 2013 plan, and I'll be referring to this in just a moment. So the document in front of you really starts with our mission for professional development in the district. It then talks about another great acronym we have here, PLC, which is a professional learning community. And the three big ideas of the professional learning community are a focus on learning, building a collaborative culture, and a focus on results. And so that's one of our main overarching goals that we're using with all of our teachers as we plan our professional development, from everything that we do, from individual professional development to our overarching professional development, where we spend time on our professional days. In your document, you also see a triangle, which is a focus on the Common Core. And I explained this triangle a lot. This is something I used on our opening day this year. This triangle develops the three main things that we're working on this year, which is overarching is our professional learning community with the goal of increased student learning. But the 3 points of the triangle, one is curriculum development and Common Core alignment. So we're spending a lot of time through our curriculum leaders and through work that we're doing in department meetings and our school-based meetings to look at the Common Core documents, to work on curricular goals, and to talk about alignment. We're working on things like common assessments so that we're able to measure our student growth. Another piece of that triangle is the data team training. We've done data team training. We started last year with our math, our English language arts, our special education leaders, as well as all of our administrators, including the superintendent, who took time to be part of a district-wide conversation about data-driven decision-making, so that we're really using data to make decisions that inform everything that we're doing. But we definitely focused a lot on all different kinds of data, but also on data related to curriculum and student growth, MCAS, but also local measures, for example, these common assessments, which we're working to develop in all subject areas K-12 across the district. And the third piece of this is educator evaluation and goal setting. And this is the third leg of the triangle. It's just as important as the others, and they're all interrelated. So there is a piece of educator evaluation that includes needing just to inform our staff and to talk about the new regulations and what this means, We're currently in negotiations, but there are certain aspects of the new regulations from the state that we're talking about at this time, as well as negotiating. But it's all related. There's pieces of the educator evaluation that deal with goal setting, and that's based upon curricular goals and understanding our goals for our students. And there's a lot of the educator evaluation that is also eventually going to be tied into using data from common assessments and from educators to measure how we're all doing, administrators and teachers, and how we're meeting our goals for student learning. So there's a piece of data training and there's a piece of curriculum embedded within that educator evaluation. We did believe that this year, there's so much new. These are three major initiatives here. But we believe that there was so much to learn about educator evaluation that we've actually devoted quite a bit of time this year to that. So we did spend our October 5th full day talking about what I presented to you a few weeks ago about, we talked about PPI and data analysis with MCAS. And we spent the afternoon looking at curriculum. But we have dedicated the majority of the rest of the year. If you look at October 26th, we'll be spending time looking at what's called Standard 2, Teaching and Learning. This is part of the education evaluation. These are the model rubrics that we're talking about here. So Standard 2, Teaching and Learning. We're going to do a deep analysis and understanding of that aspect of the educator evaluation rubric. January 2nd, which is a full day, we're going to spend time doing the district-wide choice again. That was very successful last year. Teachers really appreciated a chance to say, here's something I want to learn about. So, and we also utilize some of the great wealth we have in our district of wonderful teachers who have master's degrees or advanced courses in technology areas that they're able to share with one another. And now if you hear someone's using a smart board in one room, now here's a chance to really to whet your appetite to learn a little bit more. And then we're offering courses throughout the year where teachers can go deeper. So this really kind of, lets you know a little bit more about what you might have heard that was happening and whet your appetite for a little bit more. But we're going to expand that this year because one thing we heard in our feedback last year was that not only did folks want technology, but they also wanted some pedagogy or some other instructional courses. So we're going to have some other things in there, 21st century skills, universal design for learning, and some other areas, co-teaching, things like that we're going to share with everyone on that day. So that's going to start very soon. Teachers are going to be putting in applications to offer something on that morning, and that'll be a great day. And then we've outlined February 1st and March 8th as further time spent looking at our rubrics. So Standard 1 is the other standard we're going to look at in depth. That's curriculum planning and assessment. And then we've saved the last few days to look at SMART goal development. There's a lot of time that needs to be spent on making sure that these goals are developed at the individual level, at the team level, and that these goals meet the acronym for SMART, and that there's something that's, the most important part with these goals is making sure that there's something that is rigorous and yet attainable. And I think that's something that we're going to focus on, and obviously spending this much time on it emphasizes how important it is to get this right. So we're going, and by doing this, by the way, we're way ahead of the game. As a non-race to the top district, we're ahead of the game with the educational part of this, so that when we do implement some of these things in the next few years, we'll be in a great place. The rest of this document outlines some of it clarifies some of the things that we have in our district for North Reading credit, for graduate courses, guidelines for individual recertification. We outline some different types of professional development, including early release days, workshops, conferences, curriculum instructional projects and study groups, as well as graduate courses, action research, research and development, and committee membership. It also talks about the recognition for supervision of student teachers in the district and clarifies that for you as an educator in the district. We then also spell out the credits and stipends that are awarded to program presenters, study group facilitators, and action research facilitators. So we have a few forms of compensation in the district. One is in-service North Reading credit. The other is for some instances when they've presented it multiple times, we're looking to provide the presenters with a stipend for their work. So again, calling upon some of the great resource we have in district, some very knowledgeable staff members who are able to pass along and train other teachers as well. So we then included in the plan a overview of the professional development opportunities. sort of a sample of some of the things coming from this year. There's many workshops and conferences. We have a great partnership with, it's called CPMSIE, which is through Salem State. And as a member district, we were able to attend, our educators are able to attend at very little minimum cost for members. Workshops ranging from everything from using iPads in the classroom to understanding the new Math Common Core. There's things for administrators, for technicians, for teachers, for everyone. It's really wonderful. Northeast Consortium is another great partnership that we have, and there's many offerings that we have through them which we widely distribute. We'll be working on curriculum development. Again, K-12, first step is making sure they have a curriculum that they're comfortable with, that's aligned with the standards at the state level. The second step is to start looking at common assessments K-12. And that means everything from mathematics with the new frameworks to something like art or music, developing rubrics and talking about how they're going to assess a piece of artwork. All teachers would give a similar assignment and discuss how did students meet the criteria that these professionals have decided is the essential criteria for success in that area. So that's the ongoing work at our curriculum levels and our curriculum leaders are learning. We also have many study book groups. It's a joke, if you ask any educator in the district, often they're in 1, 2, maybe 3 different book groups. But some of the examples of what we're reading this year, On Common Ground at the high school, which is all about professional learning communities. Strategy and Action is a continued reading assignment that the Administrative Council has done. We're reading Unpacking the Standards with our curriculum leaders, which is a book that's by Larry Ainsworth about essential power standards, and you'll hear a lot about that from our leaders. Schools Where Everyone Belongs. This is a book study group that we did with the PAWS group about creating a culture of acceptance, and it's really starting from the administrators all the way to the classroom level to create a place that's comfortable for our students. So we've done that group at PAWS, and now we're going to spin that out, and members of the PAWS group are going to lead these study groups at each individual school. We're also, a big focus of the new Common Core is on informational text, which is nonfiction, but also charts, diagrams. It's a big push in our literacy, and so we're reading that in our science and social studies groups, are reading that group, that book with other teachers. So we've got many committees throughout the district, PAWS, Technology Committee, a Wellness Committee this year. Many teachers are engaged in coursework. We're going to be looking at 2 major pieces, part of our strategic initiative, Understanding by Design and Universal Design for Learning. We'll continue our work with co-teaching, which started this summer, is very successful. We started with 1 cohort. That cohort has many follow-up opportunities this year, and we're talking about looking to expand that as 2012-13 goes into next summer. We also have trainings throughout the district for our secretaries and accountants. We have a training through the Business Association, MASBO. Many trainings in Administrators Plus. Also, many teachers are looking at Microsoft certifications. Secretaries and others are looking at those certifications. Some big initiatives, as you're aware, in technology. We're continuing to offer Google websites, iPads, smartboards, but what teachers have been saying in their feedback is they're really ready for those advanced courses. There are some teachers that still need to know where the power button is and how you turn it on, and then there are others that are now ready for that advanced course. So some of our people who have been in the program for a few years are now ready to offer those advanced classes, which is great. The Flipped Classroom is a course that I'm actually leading with about 20 people. It's the concept you may have heard, but the idea is to flip the instructions so that some of the content is delivered at home for homework. And what you're doing really is you're maximizing the time when the students are in front of you during the day for collaboration and some of those things. So instead of a lecture-driven style during the day, what you're doing is the content's delivered. A lot of it's through video, but it's not entirely through video. What's nice about that is students are able to pause, rewind, take it at their own pace, on their own time, and then we maximize the time during the day. So we're doing a real collaborative course. We're going to learn by doing. It's going to be face-to-face, but also online, so some blended learning there using Edmodo. And the teachers are going to actually create lessons using video and really get that sense of how to make a homework help video for someone by writing directly on an iPad screen and recording it. And so you're going to see quite a bit about that. We're going to be using Twitter, and we're going to be tweeting from there as we're reading the book together called Flip Your Classroom. So I'm really excited about that. That starts in October. It's going to be year-long. And we've got a lot of great people from all levels involved in that. Our iPad initiative, as you know, is another big professional development opportunity. This is in year 2 of our initiative. We've expanded it. We have 30 new educators So we still have our 5 carts, one in every school, but all of the educators now who have an iPad, an individual iPad, have the opportunity to now sign out that cart and use it with the classroom. So that's the goal for this year, is that all those educators are going to be using the iPads with students. So we're really making some advances in that area. And all of those teachers, as a part of the initiative, remember, are getting professional development, technological support, and a lot of information that we're sharing through constant meetings and constant trainings with our department. And as I mentioned before, we're going to continue our data team training this year with our science leaders and our social studies leaders, and some follow-up with all of the leaders who were trained last year. The summer opportunities that are in here, we have our mentor training again. We're doing that again this year to bring in another cohort, and then we'll continue that every few years to make sure that everyone is trained. We'll continue that co-teaching, probably with a second cohort, and continuing technology training, as that is a big desire for our teachers to continuously be trained in technology. So in the packet, we then included the outline for the Professional Development Day for the 5th. There's then also, I'm not going to go through everything, but there's a recap of what we did last year, 2011-12, and then also the inclusion of all of the daily schedules from each of those days. So again, this is really about transparency, communication of what we're doing. At the bottom here, I've included the plan, which I've been referring to, so people can see that at home if they'd like to, and then also the schedule for the 5th. And as the other days, as the 26th and the other days come, we will upload those schedules as soon as they're available to teachers. They'll also be available to everyone to see what we're up to here and what we're doing. And if anyone ever has any questions about it, I'm very open to feedback from anyone that sees that. So our mission, our beliefs, and objectives are here located under about our professional development. And then if you want to get more specific, you click on 2012-13 to see the actual details of the day. Great. So any questions, folks?
How much do we work with other school districts on professional development? Do you get together with other curriculum directors, et cetera, and say what are you doing? And do you get together with other superintendents and on a fairly regular basis?
Patrick has quite a few groups he gets together with. You want to talk about those?
Sure, and actually I didn't mention that here. Two major initiatives from last year, and this is one of the great benefits of a coordinated, effort among districts. We all have to implement educator evaluation. We all have to implement common assessments. We all, and they're all the same standards, not only in Massachusetts now, but across the whole country. So we had a group of our districts in the SEAM Collaborative came together this summer. There's about 7 or 8 districts that came together to create math common assessments, rubrics, and open response rubrics. So what we're able to do is send a few people from each district, but then they love it because they're meeting with 2nd grade teachers from all around the area. And we're able to come back now. There's a ton of work to be done. There's tons of questions to be created and things to be gathered, but we're all doing the work together, and that's really wonderful. With the Curriculum Leadership Exchange, we did the same thing. We sent 4 teachers to this one. There were 23 districts a part of that. And rubrics were created, as well as writing prompts in 3 different areas, pre-writing assessments and post-writing assessments, all grades K to 8, and then also 6 to 8 science and social studies. So we have all that is just coming out now. I'm going back to my curriculum leaders, sharing that. We're going to decide whether we're going to, take it as is, adopt, adapt, or revise those questions. But it is a wonderful opportunity for folks, and we see that growing more in the future. As a part of that SEAM group, we're applying for a grant right now for mathematics to continue some of the work done over the summer and to expand that with some others, bringing in some professional development providers who are quite costly on a daily rate. We could not really afford the daily rate of some of these experts, but as a combined group, we're able to do that, and then we can go send some folks and come back and they can pass that on in a train the trainer model. So thank you for the question. That is a great thing that we've been taking a part of and look to continue to do in the future.
But individually, Patrick also belongs to several groups where he has an opportunity to converse with people who have similar positions around the work that's being done. And we do share opportunities for professional development between other districts.
One other question that might be ancillary to this, but it's somewhat related, is the talk of the new core curriculum. And I'm just curious if you can, in 100 words or less, tell us what kind of changes, if any, can we expect to see in the curriculum that North Reading students will be experiencing, I believe, is it beginning next year or the year after?
I'm going to let Patrick do it in 100 words or less.
Sure. So we're thinking of the Common Core?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, two things. So one, in mathematics, we will be talking quite a bit this year about potential changes there. There's been shifts in grade level and what's expected at different grade levels. And my teachers have been working through the curriculum leaders on this for a year. And we're making our alignments to make sure that everything is taught at every grade level based upon what will be tested in the next coming years. There's some transition, there's lots of mapping of the old standards and the new standards and some shuffling. So some of what's happening this year is everyone's teaching what they've taught in the past with a few supplemental lessons because these lessons are going to carry over. So that's been happening a little bit there. There are some changes that are on the horizon that we're going to continue to talk about that affect algebra and affect some different courses in the high school as a part of this, and there's more information coming out every day. So those are conversations that we're having right now at the administrative level and at the curriculum leader level that we're slowly trickling down to our teachers. But they are working hard to make sure they're aligned. The state has provided some real guidance about here are the standards that they're accessible in this year. Here are the standards that are accessible next year. So it's sort of a partial implementation and then a full implementation over a couple-year period. The same is true with English language arts. And I should say overall, you'll see those changes happening at the lower levels. It'll take a little bit more time to get to the 10th grade exam because the students that are currently in 9th and 10th grade were brought up through on the old standards. So it's going to take a little longer to hit the top. With the English language arts, I would say probably the most significant change is really this emphasis on informational text. And as I mentioned before, it's not just about narrative writing, it's about informational writing. And what I'm trying to get to everyone is that doesn't just mean nonfiction. That means nonfiction, but it also means here's a chart, here's a graph, and how can a student answer a question or interpret what that means. And the big piece with that is, you've all heard about writing across the curriculum, reading across the curriculum. Bless you.
Thank you.
Specifically in the literacy frameworks now, it's actually literacy for English language arts, but also science and social studies. And the department always says to us, and mathematics as well. So it's really the responsibility of all of our subject areas to be, because who is better to teach someone to use the vocabulary and to interpret a graph or interpret scientific data than our science leaders. So they're really working hard to not only look at their frameworks, but also the literacy frameworks and also improve there. So there's lots of room for improvement there, and that's what we're going to see. What's also coming along with this, and there's still information trickling out on this, but some national assessments that may be coming along that might be computer-based. There's lots of interesting things out there, but some of these different writing assessments and math assessments and even science assessments, they're starting to give us some examples of what they could look like. And we're sharing that as it comes out. We're sharing that with the teachers because it does change a little bit. If you have a computer-based assessment and you're dragging and dropping things, and if a computer-based assessment can see what a student chooses and then gear the next question towards their strengths, these are some of the things that are kind of exciting, I think, with computer-based assessments, and we're sharing that with the teachers as we go. So they're learning about, here are the new standards, here's what's going to be assessed, but also how they may be assessed. I think it's all part of that conversation. So many things coming out. It's pretty exciting, but it's also quite a bit of work. So.
And the new core comes in next year or the year after?
It's here now.
It's in now.
But
for full implementation?
right, full implementation.
For full implementation would be next year and the year after,
Okay.
depending on the grade levels.
My main concern with this informational text reading is that kids stop reading classics, stop reading fiction, stop reading things that, I feel they should be reading, and everything moves to this informational side. So I just hope there's a good balance there.
There absolutely is. And the way it's structured is very careful. As they go through the grades, the ratios change a little bit so that you're making sure you're having everything. But there's still a steady diet of the classics and narrative writing and creative writing. That stuff's not going away. It's just really about making sure there's a balance. And so your English class is definitely still doing your classics and your literacy, but you're making sure that you're getting writing and reading in all your subject areas. Like I said, even including mathematics and reading about at a high level, a rigorous level, so that students can read a scientific journal or a manual or instructions, as well as the classics, the literature.
Well, I think that's really good. It gets to the practical area that I think is missing now. You have kids look at, they read a newspaper or they look at something online and they're saying, geez, I really can't, I wouldn't know how to interpret that and write about it. And I think that you need those skills, obviously, especially in the 21st century. So,
Absolutely.
provided they keep that balance.
Mhm.
Any other questions, comments?
I just had one question.
Sure.
You mentioned a couple of times about getting feedback from our staff about their experience in this process. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about what you're actually doing to get feedback and sort of what your process is.
Sure, absolutely. There's a couple of different ways that we do that. The most simple way is after these days, we usually give out a survey. It's usually, it's pretty timely. We try to do that with this kind of professional development, like a full day, goes to the whole district with the Survey Monkey kind of a response, and we tabulate it, we go over it. I go over the superintendent, we often share it with the whole administrative council. We also have, when teachers attend individual professional development, they're creating a product. They may write a reflection. They may also do a brief survey giving information about that. Whenever we bring someone in, we do either paper or we do sort of an electronic survey. We take those results seriously. And one thing that I really try to do, as I did here tonight, is communicate that. And I will say, and I will, because I think that's the biggest part of it. You always fill out these surveys, but where's that next step? So when I send out the next announcement of what we're doing, I often put in the email, based upon the survey results, or 98% of you said you love January 3rd's choice, so we're going to have that next year. So, and the superintendent reinforces this through her presentations as well, that we're making our decisions, we're modeling based on data. So this is our data from our teachers, we're making our decisions based on that data. So that's something we do. But we found that electronic is really helpful because you can tabulate, you can look at teachers versus paras, you can look at elementary versus middle versus high, and you can do so many things with that, as I'm sure you're aware. The paper and pencil is effective as well, but I really like what you can do with Survey Monkey. We have a district account that lets us do a lot of different disaggregations. It's great.
Question?
The only other question I have is, are there sort of gaps? Because when I look at this, it's like, it looks great and wonderful, but are there areas that are sort of missing, or sort of opportunities that have been missed? That you
Or that we can't get to
we
because...
can't get to because we don't fund it.
Right.
No, I know we don't have an HR director. Put your hand.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I just put forward that we talked about including all the schedules from last year, because last year the school committee gave us 4 additional early release days for the purpose of professional development. And I just want to bring your attention to how detailed these schedules are, so that you really get a sense of who is doing what, when, and with whom. Because we owe the public the knowledge of how we are using those professional development days to improve student achievement. So, Karen, to answer your question, time is always a factor. We continue to chip away at what we need to do, but having more time to bring teachers together across disciplines, across schools, and between schools requires additional time. And so I didn't want to, jump in there, but I just want to make sure that I'm advocating for the use of these days in the way that we've been doing it, but we could always use more.
Well, and I think this year, a lot of the training is revolving around the new educator evaluation system, which we have to train the teachers and the administrators on that new system in order for us to be successful.
Rating the professional development
Right,
bank,
exactly.
We are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I've said we could spend all these days just on any piece of the triangle. We could do this all on data, we could do this all on curriculum, we could do it all on instruction, we could do it all on, there's just so much to do. But I think our teachers have really stepped up to the plate too, and when there's other opportunities, like we did 2 days of curriculum intensive work right when school got out last year. And we had over 20, 25 teachers coming during the summer to participate in that and to really design, curriculum units and some lesson plans and some macro design. It's really great. And we've, as Kathy mentioned, they are very detailed. I work on this. The principals put in a tremendous amount of work. A lot of this year is building based, and they're doing a lot of, we're modeling the training, and then the principals are going back and doing it. And Patricia Bullard has done a tremendous amount with the nurses, the paraprofessionals, the special education. A lot goes into planning these days, but I think it's thorough, and the feedback has been good. The goal is that you can't just do one size fits all, and that can be, cost comes into that as well. It's easier sometimes to put 50 people in a room with one presenter rather than try to differentiate. But even today I was meeting with our library paraprofessionals and library professionals and talking about what do you really want on those half days that it's most meaningful for you. So bringing in, they're going to look at some of these, every book company now has a new ebook company coming out, a new ebook idea, and also our Destiny software that we have that they use for cataloging. So getting some real focused PD for those folks, for the secretaries, for our technicians, for everyone, because everyone is learning and growing. That's what really a professional learning community is about. So even my technician staff today, we talked about, getting them to the trainings they need, and smart boards and iPads and iOS 6 and everything that's coming out, every day something new's coming out for those guys. So trying to keep them abreast. And also, as you mentioned, the Java-like groups for those folks too. I'm trying to get my technicians and my data specialists to talk to people in similar positions throughout, because that's a big part of professional development as well. So there's goal setting with each of those folks in their evaluations, where we set our goals and our professional goals for the year. So.
Great. Okay.
Was there anything that you felt was missing from this plan that we could include to improve?
I just, I just noted the heavy focus on the educator evaluation system this year. I know there's no way to avoid that, but looking at this, it does look like we're hitting technology. We're hitting, the core curriculum, obviously, which we have to hit. So, and I think next year we won't have to have as much training on educator evaluation, because next year we'll begin implementing it. So
It will, and we're way ahead of the game. I was in
Right.
a webinar this afternoon from the Department of Ed, and I said, anybody who's listening right now who is non-RTT, you guys are thumbs up, way ahead of the game. When I think of what we're doing, when I look at the implementation timeline, we're going to have years of getting this right before it, quote unquote, counts. So we're going to get this right. Everyone's going to be confident in it. So we've done a good job with that. So.
great.
Good.
Well done.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Patrick. No, we don't need it again. Thank you.
And I just realized that I skipped over the public hearing, so we actually that'll be the next issue we move to. We were just talking about the new educator evaluation system, and that's the implementation of that new system requires that we have a public hearing to answer any questions that the public might have about this system. So at this time, at 7:43 p.m., I will open the public hearing on the new educator evaluation system. And if the superintendent wants to just give a brief description of what it is and what we're doing in terms of negotiations, and then if there are any questions, we'll take them.
Sure. As required by the legislation, Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 38, the school committee is required to hold a public hearing prior to negotiating with the Teachers Association around the educator evaluation system. At the last school committee meeting, I made a presentation to the committee around the implementation of the new educator evaluation system, that it's a 5-step evaluation cycle, starting with educator assessment and goal setting. And then there are 4 standards that are included in the evaluation system for principals and administrators as well as teachers. And we went over what those 4 standards are, as well as the 4 levels of performance. And then we talked about how the performance ratings are determined, resulting in a separate rating of teacher administrator impact on student learning, as well as how well teachers and administrators are doing in implementing the 4 standards. And so there are different paths and plans for growth and improvement depending upon the educator's career stage and performance. And we're here this evening to answer any questions that the public may have regarding where we're at, as well as the implementation of this new system. And just to recap where we are at, we have had 1 organizational meeting with the Teachers Association. We have a team of administrators with a school committee member representing the school committee's interests, and there's a team of 4 educators and a representative from the MTA representing the teachers' interests. We're entering negotiations in a collaborative fashion, recognizing that we all have the same goals, and that's to have a high-quality, high-performing school district for the benefit of the students of North Reading.
So is there anybody in the public or here tonight who has any questions on this new educator evaluation system? Anybody in the committee have any questions? Basically, it's required by the state. We shall do it. We shall put our own imprint on it.
We are doing it.
We are doing
I
it.
had a quick question. Is each district having to negotiate with the Teachers Association?
That's correct.
Why didn't the state, I mean, if they're demanding that, why didn't the state do it in the first place?
Well, again, we have a decentralized form of government in Massachusetts, and
No, not completely,
the
apparently.
Department of Education intends for each individual school district and school committee, quite frankly, to negotiate some of the nuances that can be negotiated within this new evaluation system.
Yeah, Michael, it is interesting because they have given, if you wanted to, you can just 100% adopt what the DESE has given us. But I think they're at least giving us the opportunity. Each district may have some unique issues around which it needs to negotiate. And
It just opens up a can of worms to me.
it does, but at least they're giving you that opportunity. But you still have to implement the specific categories, the specific performance levels. So you can't get around those, but there may be certain language, or, for example, one of the issues is walk-through evaluations versus scheduled evaluations. Some districts always have scheduled evaluations, so the teachers are never surprised by a superior showing up. Other districts use walk-through, and so that might be something that goes into the language of the agreement. So, we've gotten the fortunate thing for us is the representative from the MTA has already worked on a couple of these with other districts who are either early adopters or race to the top districts. So we're hoping that our negotiations with the NRTA will be pretty quick because we've already got documents that we're working from that she's already worked on with other districts. So, but you're right. I mean, they're imposing this on us, and then they're saying, "Oh yeah, but you can negotiate about it." But we have to implement it anyway. So
Yeah.
it's centralized but decentralized, right?
Only when they have to do any work.
Right. So, but we're off to a good start. Any other questions?
Later, they'll come back and tell us that when there's a difficulty that we negotiated
Yes,
it, so
it was your
we're
fault.
responsible for it.
Right. And this will go into effect for us beginning next year.
September of
Next school year.
2013.
Correct. All right, seeing no other questions at this time, I will close the public hearing at 9.
Geez.
Se-
Time to go home.
7:48, and we will move back to our regular agenda. This time it's our old favorite subject. We'll be seeing this on every agenda for at least the next 3 years.
At least.
That is the MSBA SSBC update. Kathy?
Yes. The last secondary school building committee meeting took place on Tuesday, October 2nd, from 4:30 to 6:15. There were 2 presentations that took place at the beginning of the meeting. The first presentation was made by Automated Logic, and we currently work with Automated Logic. They address the management of the HVAC systems primarily at the Batchelder School, but they also, to a smaller degree, manage the systems at the Hood and the Little. And the presentation was made about the ease of operations using this system, and our our supervisor of building and grounds spoke to how much he appreciated the work that had been done on the Batchelder and how easy it is to regulate the heating and cooling of that school. And he hopes that the district will continue the relationship with Automated Logic as a preferred vendor for the building project. The second presentation was made by Mr. Richard Giannatasso, who addressed the current security system used in all 5 of the North Reading Public Schools. Mr. Giannatasso Genatasio served on the 2007 North Reading Public Schools Security Committee that was formed to research and identify a security system for all schools. And the North Reading Police Department also uses this security system. Mr. Genatasio works in this field, and he believes that this security system should continue in the new building project. The supervisor of building and grounds also agrees. The SSBC reviewed and voted to accept additional value engineering options as presented by PMA, Durham Whittier, and Gilbane. The next regularly scheduled secondary school building committee meeting will take place Tuesday, October 30th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. The meeting will be held in the high school modular cafeteria. You can see that we've been toying with different start times of this committee meeting. We started at 4:30 last time, and now we're starting at 5:30 to see what the good fit is for a start time.
I need to take note of that, given that I showed up at 6:30 last week for the 4:30 meeting. I forgot it was changed.
Did you come in?
Yeah, well, 6:30. I never came in though because I saw people coming out. So I had a good conversation with Cliff and Jeff Simons in the parking lot. Any comments or questions on the SSBC?
Mr. Bowers and Mr. Venezia also serve. I don't know if they
I
have
don't have
anything to
anything
add.
to add.
What about the groundbreaking? We have any firmer date for that?
We
or-
had talked about November 3rd, but it may be pushed back a little bit, so we're still going to be working with Joanna Krupp from Gilbane to identify a firm date. The last pre-construction meeting last Thursday was canceled, so that will be a topic at the next meeting.
I guess one other question is, the MSBA clearly oversees this whole project, but for several months now, they haven't been that involved, correct? When's the next time they'll step in, per se?
I think
or
the project manager circulates documents
Okay.
to them based on the meetings that we have and the information, the scheduling that they go over at the construction meetings and things like that. I don't know, Cliff, if
I believe they've been involved
they
on a regular basis,
kept
weekly
up to date
basis.
by
that's good, because my issue was, if they're not kept in the loop, then 3 months later they come in and they see something. So they're kept aware of everything that's going on. So we can be pretty confident that they haven't found anything that's that they're comfortable with where we are right now.
About it. I know our project manager keeps them up to date as we improve invoices and we're making expenditures, which we are at every meeting pretty much, both for the project manager and for the the GC, the general contractor, and the architect. All that I think is cycled through the MSBA.
Because I'm crossing our fingers, because I know a couple of one of our neighbor, Wilmington, is having some issues, and I saw the Concord Carlisle project is also on hold now.
Yeah.
So it's good that they're kept up to speed and everything is full speed ahead. That's great. Okay. All right. Next we have, I know it's the little school, but it's the Great Wall at the little school.
Yes.
So Carl, if you want to bring us up to
Sure.
speed on that.
Thank you. Thanks to the generosity of the town meeting last Monday, Article 14 was passed, and Article 14 will provide funds to rebuild and renovate the little school retaining wall. So Tuesday morning, we called the engineer to give him the good news, so the work is moving ahead swiftly at this stage. Our next benchmark here is a meeting this Thursday where the engineering company, the supervisor of buildings and grounds, myself, will meet with Jim DeCola, the town's
Building inspector.
building inspector, to get him involved early in the process. It's important to ensure that all of his input is considered early, so that once the project has an outcome, he's satisfied with all of the various safety aspects. I have no new information on timing. We continue to hope that this is work that will be done prior to the ground freezing, and that's our goal, and that's what we're working towards. But it's full speed ahead at this point.
And as solid a guarantee as we can be given, we've been given a fairly good guarantee that the work will be done before softball season next April, correct?
Oh, sure, and I think if you remember, it was last October, was it Halloween weekend where we had that snow?
Yes.
Should the weather or other issues prevent us from doing the work this fall, there's no reason why we can't do it in the late winter, early spring.
So
So
the ground hasn't been frozen since, what, February 2010?
I know, really, last year it
Yeah,
didn't, right, didn't freeze at all.
I'm just reluctant to make,
Correct.
absolute promises.
You
on
don't
these
control the
things.
weather.
No, but it was as good a guarantee as we can get, outside, outside forces not considered, so. Okay. Any questions on the wall? And I do thank the town meeting for approving that money.
Yes.
Okay, next we have an update on the Director of Finance and Operations.
Yes. At this time, I'd like to provide a search update to the committee, so I'm going to begin with the end in mind, and then we'll move backwards from there. What I'm passing around to you now is a proposed search timeline to fill the position of Director of Finance and Operations with a full-time employee. So as you can see on, he doesn't have the copy of that, so he needs that. As you can see on this timeline, I am proposing that we advertise for the position on February 8th, from February 8th to March 8th. That will be a 30-day posting to maximize an opportunity for applicants to submit their packages to the school district. And I've identified 5 different ways that we will advertise to fill this position. We'll make sure that this information is on the North Reading Public Schools website, connected to all of the schools. We will also advertise on School Spring, as we always do now for positions that are available. That is a web-based job application site. We'll advertise this information through DESE on boston.com, monster.com, as well as MASBO. And MASBO is the professional organization for school business officials in Massachusetts. And by February 3rd, I will confirm our interview committee members. And you can see that I've listed all of those who sit on the committee. There are 9 members, 10 including the superintendent. You can see that between February 25th and March 1st, we'll review interview questions as a committee and come up with a final list of questions at that time. Applications will be due on March 8th. From March 11th to the 18th, there is an application review process. I've identified the individuals who will review the applications to identify those applicants who will move forward in the process. The application review will consist of the superintendent, a school committee member, the director of pupil personnel, the director of academic services, and the principals. We will schedule our interviews with those candidates that will be moved forward on March 21st and 22nd. On March 27th, I will have an orientation meeting with the interview committee. I'm planning to conduct interviews April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I've indicated 8 slots at this time. If there are more, we'll add more. If there are fewer, then we'll adjust accordingly. We will then deliberate on the last day of interviews and identify 2 or 3 finalists that would then move forward to the school committee. So on April 8th, those finalists would be named. And in yellow, I've identified some potential dates for the school committee's review. I'm suggesting that we potentially think about Tuesday, April 23rd as a school committee interview date, with the Director of Finance and Operations selection happening by April 24th. The issue here is that in April we have a vacation. So if finalists are identified on April 8th, we'd then work to schedule those finalists the remainder of that week. The following week is April vacation, and the 22nd is a school committee meeting, but that is also a budget. We've identified that night as a budget presentation meeting night, I believe. I want to just check with in my packet. We've identified April 22nd as a budget presentation evening.
I need to just mention that my dissertation defense is on the 24th, so I will not be able to attend if it's on that date. However, if everybody else is able to attend, I'll defer to consensus.
What if we have a tie vote?
Yeah, I would think I'd rather do it with all 5 members here.
And what,
Cannot
what,
be
can you
held.
say that again?
No, that's all right.
24th of April.
The 24th is April? Well, we
That's the
could,
selection, so I'm,
Oh, no, but we would, I think we would make the selection that night on the
The night of the
23rd.
23rd.
Remember how we did with the oh, no, you weren't here for the superintendent. Oh, yeah, you were here for
Yeah,
the
I was here for the
superintendent.
superintendent.
Remember how
It was
we
the same
we
night,
made the
so-
decision that same night?
so shall we move it to a
to the
date?
23rd.
No,
No,
No, this says Tuesday the 23rd and then selection the 24th. That's
What
why
I-
I'm just,
what I'm saying is on the when we
Right.
did the interviews for superintendent, we interviewed both
So
candidates
you're
that
saying we
night.
can do everything on the 23rd?
And we made the
don't-
decision that night.
if you
Oh.
can do it on the 23rd, that would
Now,
be
you
more
could, you can, if you want to notify the candidate the next day,
Okay.
that's fine, but we
So
can
you
make
wanna
the
vote after the
decision.
interviews?
Yeah, don't you think we can vote after the
Yeah,
interviews?
that's fine. Totally
you-
fine, as long as I
Yeah.
don't have to, I can't do anything on the 24th. so-
Okay.
Is the 23rd okay with you,
Yes.
though? The night before?
Oh, yeah, I'll be
Okay.
prepared.
I'm sure you will be.
Physically, we'll be exhausted by
Right.
the
No.
24th and collapse, but.
And then I'm suggesting a start date of July 1.
Okay.
Any feedback on this potential search timeline?
Looks good to me.
I think it's
Okay.
very
Good.
appropriate.
I had a question of the members of the selection committee, are those,
Well, we're the selection committee, the interview committee you're talking about?
the interview committee, sorry. How does that makeup get built?
When
Is
we
there a
went,
requirement for some of these positions to be involved?
no, the superintendent puts together the interview committee, and that interview committee represents the number and the members who were on the interview committee last spring.
Yeah.
So we included people from the town.
Yeah, it just seems that a
Administrators.
third of the members are town. I'm just not sure how much we get involved in interviewing their candidates either, but.
Well, I think one important thing here is that the business, that position, Director of Financial Operations, as Carl can attest to, has to work with a lot of the departments at the town. But I do see your point, Michael, that there are a lot of town side members involved.
Well, there's only really one elected person, that's the member of the Board of Selectmen.
That's true.
The others are appointed. And we have a number of people, I mean, the school committee member, central office administrator, principal, supervisor, buildings
Oh, right.
and grounds, business office employee, are all school department people.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only other elected official would be the member from the Board of Selectmen, because the finance committee member's appointed, so.
Is there any particular voice that you feel is missing from this list?
No, I
Would
was
be
just wondering what
helpful.
the makeup was.
Good
And
question.
I know.
I like it when you invest, a lot of different representatives of town government into these things. I think it's good.
And I,
Ask questions, the right questions or raise different questions.
I think that the last time through, it worked quite successfully. We worked as a group, we all had slightly different viewpoints. They were all sort of synchronous. They kind of got a good spectrum of thought.
Wasn't that successful, Cliff? We didn't get anybody.
No,
but the process was.
right, the process was good.
But the process was very good,
Goodness.
and that was the right choice out of the
Yeah.
group that we had to
The
choose
result
from.
was right. The result was.
And I think it does make sense to only have one community member for this. I think if it was, I think for a superintendent or for when they get hire a new town administrator, they have more than one, because that's a more general management position versus this is a more specialty position. We're talking about finance. So I think one community member makes sense. The only thing I would think of, and maybe it doesn't make sense, is a teacher. But I don't know if that, is necessary. But I think this,
No, who is missing? Is is missing on this?
This is already a pretty large committee, so I'm just concerned that I want to make sure that the composition is right, but I also make sure that
Yeah.
we're not adding.
I think it's fine. I just said you add a teacher.
Looks good.
Very good.
So working backwards, if I may.
And so now we go back. Now we hit the long and winding road here for the rest of the story, as what was
Correct.
that famous newsman would say?
Stay classy, San Diego.
The rest of the story. Who was that newsman?
Oh, right. And now for the rest of the story. Well, as you know, last spring, we had over 20 applicants submit their packages because we had advertised to fill the position. Mr. Nelson had indicated his intent to retire at the beginning of August 2012. So we advertised to fill the position. We interviewed 6 candidates, and as you know, we were not successful in identifying a candidate to fill that role. So I went back and met with Mr. Nelson, and he agreed to stay on through December 31st. So he moved his retirement as a favor to me as the superintendent and to the school committee, and quite frankly to the district. He moved his retirement to December 31st. So following our unsuccessful search, I fully intended to do a full search this fall and go through the process all over again. But over the summer, I had an opportunity at my executive institute to talk to quite a few of my superintendent colleagues about filling this role. I know from their experience, it's not an easy role to fill, particularly because we have very specific criteria that need to be met in order for a candidate to be successful. And as I was talking to my colleagues and let them know what the timeline could be, they really felt that advertising in the fall was not a good time, especially if the candidate is currently working in a school district. If we went through a process this fall and found a successful candidate that's currently employed, that candidate would need to give notice and leave a current position in another school district to come to North Reading. And one important question that I did an awful lot of reflection on that was posed to me by my colleagues was, do you really want to employ someone who's currently working in another school district and would leave that district to come to your district? So that really gave me pause for reconsideration. And so I decided that it is not a good time to advertise, and I began to think about alternatives and decided to present to the school committee an option for hiring an interim director of finance and operation. And so, again, I know other superintendents who have this position as an interim position in their school district. And they talked about the pros and the cons. So I decided to discuss my thinking with Carl. And we really took a look at what's taking place from December to the end of June in a school district. And of course, the most critical activity that's taking place is the development of the next year's budget. And I don't need to tell you how important that activity is to a school district. So Carl and I talked about that, and then we had a follow-up meeting after discussing initially this notion of bringing an interim in. And Carl and I then discussed another option that, frankly, keeps Carl in the district. And that's what I'm going to present to you tonight. Carl, again, has agreed to postpone his retirement one last time until February 28th of 2013. He would stay on as a full-time employee until that time, and at that time, he would officially retire. He would then continue in the interim role 3 days a week until July. So that would be from March 1st until July 1st, with a potential for a little overlap in July when the successful candidate is hired. So you might say, how could Carl do this job that he's doing 5 days a week in 3 days a week? And that's a very good question. Carl would need to transfer some of his responsibilities to other central office administrators, including me. For example, responsibilities that he has for overseeing anything to do with collective bargaining or union issues with food service or custodians would be turned over to me. And I would take on responsibility for all of those kinds of conversations and deliberations that may need to take place. He's also responsible for reporting an awful lot of data to the Department of Ed. So we'd start transitioning some of that responsibility to the Director of Academic Services, as well as to Nan Cook, who is hired as our data specialist in the district. But more importantly, if this proposal is acceptable to the committee, this would allow Carl to stay with the district from March to June, and we would not bring in a third person into this project. I say a third person because when Carl leaves, if we brought in a new interim, that would be a second person, and then we're looking to hire a new Director of Finance and Operation, resulting in that third person in this process. So by allowing Carl to continue as an interim, we have his level of expertise that he has gained over the last 12 years working in North Reading, maintaining that expertise, not having a learning curve with a new interim, and then Carl being here to transition a new person on board that we hope will start by July 1st. So it is my recommendation that I would like to present to the committee that we maintain Carl as an interim after he retires on January 28th,
February.
2013. Oh, February
February
28th, sorry. Sorry. February 28th, 2013. And so I'd like to put that on the table for your consideration.
Before the committee has any questions or comments, Carl, do you want to add anything to what Kathy had to say, or?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, though.
All right. We thinking about this, and my main concern was the 3 days a week. But the more you think about it, the benefits outweigh the negatives, I think, in having Carl here during what I consider to be the most critical months in terms of both developing the budget and then negotiating / working with town officials on that budget to get it to town meeting in June. We've discussed this. I think the committee is concerned to make sure that you and others whom some work is offloaded to during this 4-month period, to make sure it's only that 4-month period, because I think it'll be extra work for you and Patrick and others that we don't want to see continue after that 4 months. So when the new person comes in, they would take over that those roles again. But I just think that having someone here who is, rather than dropping someone in from on a parachute in February or March to start negotiating the budget, who hasn't been here, I think would be an extremely difficult situation. So I'm on board with this plan. I have slight trepidation, but I'm on board with it. Anybody else?
I'll just say thank you, Carl.
Jerry?
I was going to say the same thing. I want to thank Kyle for postponing his retirement. Now it's for 7 months. I mean, he was eligible to retire back on August 1st of last year. Now he's going to stay on for really an additional 7 months, and I think only to accommodate the district, really, because of the delay in trying to find a replacement. So, Kyle's golden years are slipping away 1 month at a time.
He's just postponing his Hawaii
But
trip.
no, we do appreciate it, Kyle, that you're willing to do that, because like I said, he's basically working for right now for 3 or 4% of his pay.
Right.
He'd be sitting home collecting it.
Yeah.
So, I'm on board. If we're going to hire somebody for an interim until we find somebody to fill the position full time, to me it would be ridiculous to go look anyplace else if Kyle's willing to do it.
Karen?
I have every hope that we're going to fill the position with this new search strategy. I feel confident that it's the right timing. I feel confident that our process will be successful and we'll find somebody to fill some very big shoes. I'm glad those shoes are sticking around a little bit longer to allow for our new person to be successful when they get here to really, do an entry plan and get into the role before they end up doing things that, have larger implications. So I, again, extend my appreciation, echo the rest of the committee, that this helps us achieve that in a way that I think respects the district and our needs. So
It's important to find the right person, but it's discouraging. We went through 22 people and
Right,
didn't
the
come
first
up
time, yeah.
with somebody, but I'm sure we'll get somebody.
Well, I know this is an extremely difficult position to fill. I know we're not the only district that has experienced difficulty trying to find the right candidates, so.
That's correct. I know of several communities that have unfortunately gone through searches a couple of times and have kept the interim on because they were not successful in finding the right person for that position. But I'm very hopeful.
Any other comments or questions? So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's proposal for the Director of Finance and Operations position for the second half of our current fiscal year, from January 1st through June 30th, 2013.
No, it would be from March 1st.
Well, no, because he's extending, he's extending his full-time.
December 31st.
Right,
Okay.
right now, it's through December 31st.
So moved.
A second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Welcome back again, Carl.
Thank you, thank you. You know, if I may.
Yes.
You know, one of my hesitations was, I hate this being the longest goodbye, you know, it's one of these long goodbyes, but, you know, it's a privilege for me to work with Kathy, the administrative council, teachers, and the school committee, and if it weren't an enjoyable experience for me, I wouldn't do it, so I thank you for your confidence.
Well, again, Kyle, we appreciate it, because like I said, I know when you have the time in and you've made up your mind you're gonna retire, to stay around, you know, an extra 7 months is an accommodation to us, really.
Yes,
So
much appreciated.
you're gonna have to postpone that plan to climb Mount Everest in April. You have to wait till.
Now, we don't have to approve your plan for the search, right? It's just a
for
consensus, right?
informational purposes.
Everybody's comfortable with that?
Yeah.
No other questions on that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Carl, and thanks for working on this, Kathy, because I think this is going to benefit all of us by having Carl's participation through the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have the fiscal year 14 budget goals. Carl?
Thank you. In discussions with Kathy about how to prepare our FY14 budget goals, we've developed a slightly altered process, and one which I think you'll appreciate. In the past, we used to have separate and distinct discussions about the financial goals, and then we had separate discussions about the school committee goals, and we tried to meld them together in a workshop. So this year, at Kathy's suggestion, we met to study the already discussed North Reading School Committee goals, action plan for 2012-2013, and we culled out those goals that impact the budget. So that was the manner in which we set about to try to develop the goals that you have in front of you. And as you can see, the goals, the 5 listed goals, are, I think, a little bit more objectively written, and also fit better into what the goals of the school committee are going to be in the years ahead. So, if I may, I'd like to quickly go through them with the committee. And as I said, there are 5 of them. We begin with the number 1, the update of the 3-year strategic budget vision. What we need to do here is, as the budget process unfolds, we need to be considerate and conscious of the strategic budget vision as it's laid out, because the budget goals really is the kickoff process to the manner in which the budget is developed. And hopefully, whenever we reach one of those dead ends or those issues where we're trying to decide between this and that, we pull out the budget goals and we make determinations on how to solve that dilemma by looking at the goals. So the 4 bullets listed under the strategic budget vision are as follows. First, the maintenance of low class size. Of course, that would impact our hiring practices. Number 2, the enhancement and expansion of programs. Third bullet, the provision of sufficient staff to support organizational infrastructure. 4th bullet, the provision of sufficient staff to support educational goals. So, as we lay out the budget process, we'll have these goals in front of us, and these will be our guiding lights, if you will. Should I go through all 5, Mel?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think that makes sense.
Number 2 is the implementation of Year 2 of NRPS 2016, a plan for a strategic continuous improvement. This is a document, of course, that the superintendent has been discussing at length in recent weeks. It's my understanding that's going to be published
On the website this week.
So this is a wonderful document that once again guides our process as we work through the various perambulations of the budget process. It calls for 4 sub-bullets. First, we want to support staff training and professional development. That picks up a lot on what Patrick spoke about a little bit earlier. Second bullet, to purchase identified instructional materials. Third bullet, to purchase identified instructional technology, supplies, and equipment. Fourth bullet, to fund small capital requests. Once again, this budget goal, as is written, really provides us a roadmap on how to develop the budget. Third budget goal, to maintain commitment to the upkeep of school facilities. As a district, we're very proud of the buildings and the grounds and the manner in which we maintain them. I applaud the fact that we're hoping to continue that as a budget goal. This first bullet is to maintain, repair, and improve the facilities and the grounds. And the second bullet is to update the 3-year capital improvement plan. So we have a focus here on our school facilities. Fourth of 5 goals is to manage unforeseen costs, such as special education, energy, and transportation. I'm very pleased that this is a budget goal, because one of the philosophies of the manner in which we've put our budget together in recent years is to ensure that we have the latitude and the ability for the budget to act as a shock absorber for unforeseen costs, whether they be a building issue, or special education, or whatever it may be, or a vehicle. We have the ability to, without having to go to the finance planning team, without having to lay off personnel, we have the ability, within reasonable circumstances, to absorb that issue. So the fact that it's literally written as a budget goal, I think is an appropriate and worthy action. Fifth budget goal, to develop a school district budget that is supported by our finance planning team. As we know, as the school committee knows, and as we know as a school administration, it is extremely important that when we approach the town meeting budget allocation and appropriation process, that hopefully all town bodies are in agreement with the numbers that are presented and the manner in which we've presented them. A lot of time is spent, as the committee knows, in the weeks and months prior to town meeting to develop the budget, to discuss it amongst and across all town departments, and to reach closure and agreement on the best way to approach it. So we have that listed as our 5th budget item.
Questions or comments? I have one. I don't know if this would be a goal. I don't know how you'd fit this in there. We're going to discuss it later as it relates to enrollment figures. So if enrollment figures, and I'm going to ask you this later on, but if enrollment figures continue at the rate that we see our 1st and 2nd grade, which is significantly lower than we're seeing in our higher grades, does it make sense to have some sort of goal that mentions reviewing enrollment and possibly applying additional funds to reducing or eliminating school athletic fees or extracurricular fees? I mean, I would just, and maybe that's too specific to be in the goals, but just looking at the enrollment and trying to figure out, so if we're looking at a 3-year strategic budget vision, should enrollment be part of a goal somewhere, or a factor, or something that's considered when, if lower enrollment means maybe we can introduce programs we should have today that we don't have. Maybe we can start teaching Mandarin Chinese. Maybe we can have full language courses for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Maybe we can add additional science courses, programming, as Michael's talked about quite often, other things that, or maybe we can reduce athletic fees. I don't know if that's too specific, but...
It is getting specific, but it falls under the 2nd bullet under the 1st goal. Enhance and expand programs.
Okay.
And so as we shift funds around based on enrollment, we reallocate those funds to do some of the things that actually we did this year. Last year, we took a look at enrollment and we made some reductions to some teaching positions so that we could eliminate study halls in the middle school. So we take a look at what are the resources that we have and how can we apply them.
Because one thing I think is important is, like any other taxpayer in this town, I love to be able to say, oh, geez, our enrollment's decreasing by 20%. Let's cut our budget. But I think it's also important to remember that more than $1 million of our budget comes out of parents' pockets in this town through some sort of fee,
Mhm.
be it, full day kindergarten all the way up to the bus. So I'm not saying we're going to get rid of the bus fee, and I'm not going to say we're going to, get rid of the full day kindergarten tuition. But I think you have to take that into consideration when you look at more than $1 million being funded not by any public authority. It's being funded by parents. So, but I think that does fit into the enhance and expand programs. But I just want to make sure that that's a key part of the thinking as we move forward.
Mel, I understand what you're saying too, but we have to be careful. You threw out the figure 20%. I don't want people to think it's anywhere near
Oh, no,
close
no,
to
no.
that. Yeah, but that figure just came out, so just so there's no misunderstanding.
Well, but-
The other thing is you're going to have a significant decrease in enrollment before you realize, I think, the benefit of that in our budget, because maintaining class size doesn't mean because enrollment went down that we can reduce teachers right away. I mean, I think there has to be a fairly significant change in the enrollment in order to do that.
Well, Jerry, if you look, our first grade and second grades, or kindergarten and first grade this year are at 159, and our fifth grade is at 225.
Yeah.
That's a pretty significant.
But I think you're looking at a small example. And
No,
I
and that's
agree.
why I'm going to ask when we get to this discussion. I have more questions, but I'm just saying if that happens, and we can reduce staff.
I'm on board. Exactly what you're saying.
I don't want to just say, okay, we're going to reduce
No,
staff.
I agree.
So let's only look at bringing in more programs. I also want to look at the fees and costs that we're assessing
No, I
to
agree.
families today.
But I think to realize a significant,
Right.
benefit from that, there's going to have to be a significant
Oh, yeah.
change in enrollment. And like I said, I just don't want people to think it's anything,
Right.
Near 20%. That's for sure.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, Cliff,
Go
do
ahead.
you have anything? Okay. I had two sort of recommendations. One is under number 1, to clarify that we're going to be enhancing and expanding either existing programs or considering adding programs. I know we have a wish list of things that are modest and probably less than modest that we would like to add to our budget, but I think this sort of is a little more open-ended than maybe we're intending, to expand our programming. That's just a big bucket, and so I would want to at least codify that that's exploring our, adding programs or enhancing them, as opposed to actually doing that with our vision of our budget, because we're certainly not in that position, or at least we don't know. Depending on Mother Nature, we have no idea whether we'll get there.
So rather than being that
Consider
specific,
enhancing.
consider or explore
Explore.
right. Yeah, I think that's a good point.
And the other thing I would do is that I just condensed the last two to be adequately resource organizational infrastructure and educational goal attainment, or something like that, because I think that we just need to provide not only staff, but we have to provide the actual equipment and things that go along with this, that are within the school budget, not capital, but other resources.
So you could just say provide sufficient staff, materials, and related resources to support organizational infrastructure and educational goals, right?
Aligned with educational
Aligned with
goals.
educational goals, yeah. You could probably put that into one goal. I like the way these are laid out, though. I like
too.
having these main categories with the goals underneath. I think this is good. And as far as the unforeseen costs go, I think Carl, the district, have shown a great ability to do that. One, lots of special education issues that we've had to deal with, but you can just look at this year. We had the high school gym floor, quote, emergency a couple of weeks before school was to open. The floor surface was basically just peeling off the floor, which wasn't a good situation, and we were able to get that fixed. And now we were able to provide $10,000 for the engineering study at the little school wall. Two issues that we did not have any vision into when we approved the budget for this year. So I think
so often people think that a budget really, to me, is a picture in time. It really is. When you vote a budget, it's great that day.
Yeah.
Because it's timely and it's up to date and includes all the things you know about. But the budget, even one day later, is one day old.
Right.
So you have to have contingencies.
Right. Any other comments?
I think maybe, just to bring back the idea of restoration of what we had before the cuts.
That's actually a good idea.
And then the other thing that we need to keep in mind is the thing that you pointed out, I think, a few moments ago, is to reduce fees.
Yes.
And to the extent that, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, we actually had a goal of eliminating
right.
fees. Obviously, we're still not in a flush position to be able to do that, but that should continue to be one of our goals.
I agree that should be in there somewhere.
Explore fee reduction.
Explore fee reduction. I think it's interesting. I read a story on the Haverhill High School football team this Sunday, today in the Globe, and Haverhill's my hometown, and they've had just a miserable football team for many, many years. They've had a new coach now. He's in his 3rd year. And 2 years ago, they had about 20 kids try out for varsity. This is a school that has
Big district.
1,500, 2,000 kids.
Sounds like yes.
This year they reduced the fees from, I think it was $300 or $375 to $175, and they had 60 kids try out for football this year. I'm not saying that would happen in this town, but I do think you reduce fees and you can increase participation
Yeah, it's
a little
hard to
bit.
tell exactly
Right,
what the correlation
because we have a
is,
big percentage participating already,
and they beat
so-
Chelmsford on Saturday.
and they beat Chelmsford, and they're now ranked in the top 20.
Yeah.
And for the plethora of other activities that we have,
Right.
we should have a single activity fee if we're going to have one, and not have increments
Right.
of fees associated with sub-programs within programs.
Right. So I'd like to see that
Activities.
explore reducing fees or study fee reduction as one of the goals under number 1.
We'll get it in there.
Any other comments? Do you want to approve these tonight, or you want to get us back an updated version and then we'll approve at next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Okay, Carl, again, we have the School Food Authority profile and attestation. This is a new one on me, so I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you. Well, as context, you may recall that in the spring, we invited representatives from Chartwell to come and make a presentation to the committee. And in effect, if I could summarize that, they talked about the new federal laws that impact school lunch. And they also talked about the even more stringent state laws that were going to impact school lunch. And they were talking about these changes being in effect this September, and they are now in effect. So there's a lot going on in the school lunch program in North Reading, across the state and across the country. Very briefly, you may recall that those new school lunch guidelines are very significant. They are impacting the kinds of school lunches that you can provide in terms of very specific portion control, and the impact so far in North Reading and in almost every district in Massachusetts has been improved nutrition and decreased school lunch participation. It's certainly hoped that over time, as younger generations of students move through the system, they'll be increasingly accustomed to whole grains and more vegetables and more fruits and smaller portion sizes. But for now, we are experiencing some issues. I should, before I talk about the attestation, I want to give you some specific examples of the changes that are taking place in North Reading. Some of our more popular lunches have changed significantly because of the portion control, and we literally have to count carbohydrates that are being presented, and you have only so many carbs that you can present on a Monday through Friday basis. Okay, that's how detailed this is, and that's what the attestation is going to be about in a minute. But for example, at the high school, there was a very popular calzone lunch program where if you've ever walked through the lunch, I don't know if any of you take your lunch there, but custom-made calzones.
Wasn't that Mary's Calzones?
Yes,
Yeah, that's correct,
and
right?
very popular. We've had to radically change that because the portion was too large, and so we're losing some sales there. The wraps, just giving you some examples, the wraps used to use a 12-inch diameter wrap. That's now an 8-inch.
Now, Carl, are you in there with your protractor and your ruler measuring all this stuff, or do you?
On your age
Yeah.
protractor.
I actually have my slide rule.
Yeah, okay.
You know, one of the advantages here, by the way, of having a professional food service company, Chartwell's, is that there's tremendous guidance in menu planning. The nutritionist is involved on a daily basis here in North. We don't have a nutritionist in North Reading, but Anna McGovern, our food service director, has a nutritionist she can call upon. And the the diets and the nutritions and the menus are really coming down on a central basis now, in order for us to get used to them.
So wait, so we're cutting the sizes of the portions, but we're still charging them the same amount. Plus, we're changing the ingredients from things they really like to things that.
And we wonder why the amount of.
Right, we wonder why the business is going down.
Yeah, I mean, if it's perceived by you that I'm presenting this in a negative
No,
way,
no,
it's
no,
not
no.
my intent.
I'm just stating the facts of what.
It's
No,
not
I don't.
at you,
It's not at you. It's
No, I
just.
don't
being
know that.
political.
Yes.
Actually, it looked to me like you were presenting it in a very positive way.
Yes.
Because I am so negative on this that I am hardly able to control myself here. This is the most ridiculous process that they're going through. These kids can't wait to get out of school
And get
to
something
run
to eat.
to the
Right, to
nearest
run to
place
Ryers and to the Hornet's Nest.
to get food.
Right.
Or go home and eat anything that they want, and this is ridiculous, positively ridiculous.
But Carl's not
I'll
ridiculous.
try to be
Right.
calm and peaceful on it.
And I know,
That was
Cliff,
actually
your
really measured.
Yeah, that was good.
job. Yeah. This
That-
is,
and I know that your comments aren't in any way directed at our food service staff,
No.
who
No.
has gone through an awful lot of
Bravo.
education, a lot of professional
Yes,
development
lots of
in order
work.
to do this. We also have a category called a la carte. A la carte are those food sales that you make primarily at the middle and high school that are over and above the lunch. So whether it's a cookie or it's a beverage, those were important parts of the food sales mix. But we're really not able to sell most of the a la carte items anymore. We can no longer, for example, sell Powerade, which was very popular at the high school, the nacho meal, which we all know might not have been the most nutritious meal, but it was one of the more popular meals. That's pretty much gone. Our most popular meal at the elementary school was something we called breakfast for lunch, where we served French toast and bagels, and very popular. That's gone. So the reason they're gone is because we have to fit into all of the categories that are measured on a very, very careful basis. The good news is that if we are able to prove that we are fulfilling the federal mandates, and that's what this attestation is. We are attesting to the fact, you see page 1, but it's about a 10-page document where we're literally providing not examples of the menus, but our actual menus with the portion sizes. And we're proving that we are providing X amount of green vegetables per week, X amount of orange vegetables, Y amount of fruits. I mean, it's that specific. So if we are able to attest and prove that our lunch portions and menus are attentive to the federal guidelines, we will receive an additional 6 cents per meal from the federal government to in recognition of our
Bribery.
Whoop-de-doo.
yeah. That's the good news. The bad news is it's costing us more than 6 cents
That's what I was
per
going to
meal.
ask you. Do you have any numbers from the first month of school in terms of how many fewer lunches we're selling?
Down about 5% on a year-to-year basis.
And we've been going down. Last year we had been going down previously because of the healthy kind of things.
We were transitioning into the Healthy Meal Initiative. We had started the whole grains, and we had begun the modest shift from carbo-centric entrees to more fruits and vegetables. So yes, we've been seeing a slippage for a while. So the purpose of this brief presentation is to let you know that we are preparing to make this attestation so that we can receive the additional 6 cents per meal. But that 6 cents per meal is about $1,000 a month to us. So it's
Well, that's helpful, especially since it'll help our bigger deficit we're going to have because we aren't selling as many lunches. So I think that's.
as I said, it's a dual sword. It's less lunches, but it's also more expensive meals per unit because foodstuffs that we were buying are more expensive, frankly. Isn't it sad, though, that fresh foods are more expensive than packaged foods? And that's in effect what we're seeing here.
Well, what I would hope we should add to the program, maybe with that money, we can hire a guard to stand over at Ryers and Hornets Nest, so when the kids leave school, they're not allowed to go in there and purchase the food that they actually want to eat.
Don't give them any ideas.
What's interesting is you go to a state college and you go into any dining commons at a state college, and what they offer there is unbelievable. I mean, you talk about a trap. I mean, there's as much pizza as you can eat, as much cakes and cupcakes and candy and ice cream, and you stand outside of dining commons, and every kid that walks out has an ice cream cone, and it's covered with stuff, and so it's like there's no, and these are state universities, state schools. They recently at UMass Amherst, they took away the toppings for the ice cream, and they took away the M&Ms and the sprinkles, and they're putting out like raisins and chopped up fruit. And my daughter said, "Who the hell puts raisins on an ice cream cone?" You know. But when you go up there, the food varieties are just it doesn't look like there's any nutritional value in them at all. So
I think the federal guidelines come from this idea that obesity is solved by access and by control. And in a sense, we do have an epidemic of obesity among children in this country that is outrageous. But we are not one of those states that's in that danger zone.
Right.
I mean, we're not Mississippi, which is the worst in the country, where portion sizes are unbelievable. And yet they're still making strides toward improvement. And we're in Massachusetts, and we're struggling to meet our budgetary requirements, and we're restricting people on what they can eat and not making any comment about the whole approach, because solving obesity is about a multi-pronged approach. It is not about just figuring out food access. It's activity. It's about family circumstances and solving issues at home. It's about student achievement and providing opportunities for kids to be active and have engagement. So there's a whole other part of this equation this is just completely avoiding. And we have Let's Move and all those other programs to thank for it. I think they're do-gooders and have good intentions, but I don't think this works for us, and again erodes local control, which I really, it just infuriates me on so many levels. So I appreciate our food service staff, our central office, and our food supply company, Chartwell's, for bearing with this circumstance. I think it is unfortunate. I also think it will lead to inequities for kids who can actually go and access the kind of foods they want to eat, and for kids who cannot.
Right.
And that, to me, it's still an equity issue. We still have freedom in this country, and I don't understand why we keep giving it away.
I just think the whole idea is that schools as an entity can formulate good eating habits in children and in their families, and that's so backwards. It's laughable. It's beyond laughable.
This is a safe place.
This is one meal that a student eats in our school. We tried serving breakfast and we didn't have enough demand, so we stopped serving breakfast.
it's 180 out of 1,100 meals, if you think about it.
Right.
180 out of 1,100.
And there's nothing to stop. So the students in the elementary schools and middle schools who aren't buying the lunches are bringing lunches of whatever they want.
Does anybody monitor that? What kids bring for lunch?
They couldn't possibly monitor that.
I'm just curious as to whether or not they have a.
I mean,
Don't give them ideas,
But
Jerry.
they
Don't
buy
give 'em
they buy
ideas.
one of those Lunchable packs in the grocery store that costs an outrageous amount of money and is loaded
Salt.
with calories, salt, carbs. So we're encouraging them to do that. I'm with Karen.
Wow.
I know, isn't that's
Put that on
something
your wall
amazing
right
that
now.
I'm actually with Karen on something.
Central control
Yes.
does not work.
I'm not going that far. Right?
You're close though, Jerry, I can see.
On camera, Jerry will support what I say.
Well, Carl, thanks for the work on this.
Thank you. If I may make a quick final comment, there's also Massachusetts laws that are providing stricter rules outside the school day, and we need to look at those as a district because that impacts vending machines.
Concession stands, right, at
concession
sporting
stand.
events?
It does.
Which is
hot dogs.
ridiculous. No, Jerry, seriously.
Say that, but we need to study that.
Veggie burgers.
Falafel trucks will start. That's what.
As a way to try to be a bit more proactive, I've worked with Chartwells, and they're going to be sending 5 area food service directors to our school on October 17th. 5 of their more innovative, successful food service directors who are peers of Anna. And they're going to be going to all 5 schools to look at presentation, menu ideas. We need to kickstart this and be as creative as we can, and this will be a full day meeting with that group to see if we can continue to be innovative in our food service.
Present it any way you want, but cardboard tastes like cardboard.
Next thing you know, they'll be banning Super Hornets Crunch.
That's right. I wonder how does this meet? I'm sure this doesn't meet the nutritional requirements.
$1,000 a month for
It's
having
not
it.
bad.
We better
1
tell
1 gram
John
of
Norton to
fat.
keep this on the down low.
1 gram of fat.
All right. Any other questions for Carl? Thanks, Carl.
Saturated fat.
Actually, one other thing on our new business I just wanted to mention, because we approved this last week before a town meeting and it wasn't broadcast, is we approved the use of the Northeast Tennis Center.
That's under the subcommittee reports.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's all right, good, it's next anyway. Yeah.
Well, we approved that for the next 2 years, and if necessary, for the year 2015. So you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, and again, we did go over this, and we actually voted on it at the last meeting, just before town meeting, a week ago, Monday. Through the good work of the athletic director, the high school principal, and the varsity tennis coaches for both the boys and the girls teams, they were able to enter into, or at least they were able to negotiate an agreement with the Northeast Tennis Center for the North Reading High School boys and girls tennis teams to lease space for the next 2 years, for the next 2 school years. The cost is $17,000 a year. The space that they're going to lease is indoor space. It's in Middleton. It's 5-6 minutes from the high school, literally. And the space would be used for practices, preseason, and during the season, as well as meets, Cape Ann League meets. So that would accommodate the tennis team for the next 2 years, and then I think that there may be an option for the 3rd year as well, but we can certainly worry about that when we get through possibly next year. We talked as a committee at the last school committee meeting about funding this. I think Kyle had suggested that we would be able to do it possibly partially from the revolving account and partially from our appropriation. And as a committee, we took a vote to approve this plan to lease indoor tennis space from Northeast Tennis Center for the next 2 school years.
Because we won't have any. We don't have any tennis space as of now.
As a result of the school project.
And we won't have any until the school project is complete. I think Carl said that next year we would have to account for probably maybe half of the number or a little more in our budget that we put together for fiscal 2014. So.
There were different options that were looked at, and this was clearly the best option. They presented it to the athletic subcommittee back on September 25th, and the subcommittee voted to recommend it to the school committee, and then the school committee unanimously approved it at the last school committee before town meeting. So,
I also want to thank the athletic subcommittee for their work on this. I think one of the issues we faced is that we need a lot of courts. We have 2 teams, both girls and boys, and we have JV and varsity.
right.
And so the 2 courts at Ipswich River Park weren't sufficient, and trying to do a deal with another school is almost impossible because they all have their own teams.
Yeah, I think there was certainly, our athletic director, Dave Johnson, and our coaches, Mr. Visignano and Mr. Finn, were involved in this. I think they were in favor of doing it this way, and I do believe, my recollection is that they had some input from the parents and from the tennis boosters, and I think everybody was pleased with this arrangement. And I'm sure they're going to be glad to have indoor space when late March and early April comes around.
And we learned there's no restriction around indoor usage.
Right.
So
There's
that
no
was another
restriction. That's
issue
one of
with
the things
board.
we asked about at the subcommittee meeting, whether or not the league restricted you from having your meets indoors, and there's at least one other, maybe 2 other Cape Ann League schools that do that. So,
Any questions, comments? All right, great. Routine matters, bills and payrolls, I believe, are signed. Minutes, I went over all the minutes and I found no issues. The first meeting is the September 10th, 2012 open session. So
I wasn't there, so I can't.
unless anybody has any comments or corrections, I'll accept a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Cliff, second by Jerry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? 1. Karen abstain. Okay, next we have the open session minutes from September 24th.
I reviewed these and I didn't
2012?
find any issues, so
Okay.
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 24th, 2012.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? And then we have the executive session on September 24th, 2012.
I didn't see any issues with these either, so I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes from September 24th, 2012.
Second by Mr. Bowers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Any bids and donations?
None at this time?
Okay. Subcommittee updates, we heard the athletic subcommittee. I don't think we have anything else, do we?
Subcommittee reports? No.
Yeah, no. We do have finance planning team next week, October 16th. Policy is meeting on the 23rd. In athletic, we have a question mark, is possibly meeting on the 30th at 12:30.
I wanted to check with Mrs. Ericetti to make sure that
Okay.
that was an okay date.
Should
Ms.
be.
Venezia,
It's okay with me.
Okay.
October 30th.
Tuesday. Yeah, I'll make it
12:30
work.
is okay?
I'll make it work.
Okay. I'll confirm that with the rest of the committee. Thank you.
Okay, next, we have the previously mentioned October 1st enrollment numbers. Kathy?
Yes. The official October 1 enrollment was included in your packet, and these numbers include those students in attendance in the North Reading Public Schools as of October 1st, 2012. This is data that's collected annually and submitted to the Department of Ed through SIMS. The enrollment does not include students enrolled in out-of-district programs and special education collaboratives. I had included a new report in your packet this evening that did include that information, but just prior to this meeting I discovered an error, so please disregard that report. I will give you a new one at the next meeting. So what you can see in your packet is the actual enrollment, and it exceeds the projected enrollment that we had made to the committee last spring of 2,581 by 25 students. Wow. For an actual enrollment of 2,606. So I provided a summary of the differences and a tabulated, that was tabulated below for you. So you can see that, and I just wanted to explain a couple of things. We had projected 70 students in the preschool. We actually enrolled 55. We intentionally leave spaces open because we are obligated to provide services to students identified with special needs at age 3. So we need to have slots available so that we can take those students in district when they are identified. And we already know of some students that attend early intervention outside of the school district. So when they turn 3, they come to us automatically, and we will enroll them in our district. So if you take a look at the K-5 enrollment overall, we're up 11 students. But when you factor in preschool, we're down 4 students overall. But in our elementary school, our enrollment currently is 1,203 students, including our preschool. If you take a look at the middle school, what was projected was 660 students. We actually have 670 students that enrolled, for an increase of 10. And moving to the high school, you can see that we had predicted 714 students. We initiated a new program. It's a postgraduate program for students who qualify, who are on an individual education program. So we have 5 students that are currently enrolled this year, and if you add those 5 additional students to the 714, plus an additional 14 new students, we had an increase of 19 students overall for a final enrollment at our high school of 733 students this year.
Now, those 5 postgraduate students, would those have been students that would have been serviced out of the district, or would they still have been in our school in various programs?
Great question. Those are students that would have moved into an outside placement, and we would be paying tuition on those students this year had we not instituted this transition program.
Well done.
So in the past, because we've never had this.
Right.
They've
we
been
just paid
placed outside of the
s-
district.
Out of district.
That's great.
That's
Okay.
correct.
It's very good.
That's very good.
Excellent.
So on the next page, or in your packet, you can, see that the official in-district enrollment that is typically prepared by Ann Lundell is included, and it gives you the overall enrollment of each of the elementary schools for a total enrollment, and then again goes through what I just shared for the middle school and for the high school. The page that follows that gives you a breakdown of the elementary class sizes at each of the elementary schools. So our class sizes are very favorable at the elementary, with our lowest class sizes, of course, in kindergarten, half day, but then after kindergarten, our lowest class sizes are at the little school in grades 2 and 3, with the average being 17 students. And then our largest class sizes are at grade 4 at the Hood School, average class size of 23, still favorable. Grade 5 at the little school, average class size of 23, again, still favorable. Followed by 22 students in grade 1 at the little school. And we don't have a Lyle school, we have a little school.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then if you go back to the previous page, the average class size in grade 6 is 22. In grade 7, it's 20, and in grade 8, it's 21. So again, we have very favorable
Very,
class sizes.
Very.
So we're
Question about
Go ahead,
that,
Michael.
actually.
Go ahead.
My daughter's 8th grade class is one of the larger ELA classes, and it was close to 30.
Yes. We do have levels in the middle school.
Yeah.
So where an average class size is you're dividing 10 sections of classes at a particular grade level into the total number, because there may be more honor students in a class than in a different leveled class, you'll get a range of class sizes that are approaching the higher 20s. And then some of the other classes are in the lower 20s or teens. But it depends on how many students are recommended to participate in those higher leveled classes. So that's why you'll see some of your daughter's honors classes having more students than an average class size.
Now
You take one and pass it along, please.
we're at the we're at a tipping point here, and I know that I'm going to ask you about future projections for enrollment, because if you look at the 159 that we have in the first grade now, that's a far cry from the 225 we have in the 5th grade.
Correct.
And I think if those numbers continue, there's a chance that we'll see some potential reductions in staff 4 or 5 years down the road.
That's correct. What I brought for you tonight was in the October 1st historical enrollment of the previous 5 years, including 2012, which is this year. At a future meeting, I will bring the projections that we pulled together, and those are based on NESDEC enrollment projections, and we use them every year, as well as doing our own calculations of those students that may leave the district between grades 5 and 6 and 8 and 9. But if you take a look at the historical enrollment, you can see I've broken it down by elementary, middle, and high school, and overall just district enrollment. And over the past 5 years, we've seen a decline of 215 students at the elementary level, with our largest decline from 2010 to 2011. So in the 2011 school year, we had 77 fewer students than the previous year. And that is following the enrollment projections that I've had a chance to take a look at from the past and moving forward.
But what do they say going, that 159 number that we have now, and I know you can't get that granular and say, okay, we're going to have 159 in 3
Right.
years, but do they say that we're staying around that level, or do they project an increase again?
Well, again, I have to bring that to you in a future meeting.
Okay.
They've just collected our data, and they're preparing those enrollment projections, so I
Do
will
we
bring
do our
those to
own
you.
and the state also does them, or?
Well, the state doesn't do it, NESDEC does
Okay,
them, and
okay.
then we do our own. We have our own calculations,
Okay.
so I bring both of them to you so that you have a chance to see what they
Okay.
look like.
I think it's too early to tell. I think the house inventory with is gonna turn over soon.
Well, one of the interesting things I was thinking about is there is that natural turning over of houses anyway, or you're not going to have hardly any kids in your schools. So it could either mean a flat line, you could either go down a little more, or you could shoot back up again. It depends.
Two things are gonna happen. The older residents are gonna move out because they're not willing to pay the high
Right,
taxes.
right, and that's where you get,
The other issue that could happen is the younger residents aren't gonna move in because of the high taxes.
Yeah.
Regardless of the quality of the education here. But I'm thinking that the younger residents will start to move in and replace the older residents without the children.
right, and they haven't had children for quite some time either. So I
Exactly.
think an opposite problem you're going to have. I'm going to predict that the first 2 years of the high school, we're going to be higher than the 740 enrollment that high
Geez,
school
that's
is going to
going
be
out on
built
a
for.
limb, considering where we are right now.
Moving away.
I'm worried we're going to be at 770, 780 for those
I don't
first
know
2
about
years.
that.
And
No, either. but-
well,
sure.
look at how few kids we had leave the 8th grade this year compared to what we were expecting between 8th and 9th.
I have that report to bring to you at a
Right.
future meeting as well. But if you take a look at the middle school enrollment,
670.
it's, in 2010, we lost 30 students, but in 2011, we gained 41. In 2012, we gained another 7. So for this year, we're up. And you can also see at the high school, if you take a look over the last 5 years, in 2008, we had an enrollment of 733. In 2012, we have an enrollment of 733. But we've shown a gain of 27 students from 2011 to 2012 at the high school.
Jerry, just look at those grade 7 and grade 8 classes. That grade 7 is going to be will that be the first freshman class at the high school?
2014.
Yes, that'll be the first
That'll be
freshman
the
class.
first freshman class.
And that's 242 right now.
Yeah.
That's our bubble that is moving through.
Yes.
You lose some of those,
But you're going to lose fewer because of the new school.
Yeah.
Why am I
But
not
I-
worried about this?
but-
I'm not worried about it at all.
But to
It
be
doesn't
honest
seem
with you,
like something we need to
if it
worry
hadn't
about.
been for the good work of the superintendent, we would have been at 700.
700, I know.
We had a fight for the 740 with,
I know.
for-
The projections do show that our highest enrollment should occur when the new high school opens.
First year, right?
That's correct, the first year, and then it shows that it would potentially go down. But again, you're raising some very important points.
we'll fit them in.
Projections are based on births
Right.
of the current residents. So when you have new families move in, that has not been taken into consideration as far as.
And let's remember that our current high school is built for 540. So I guess putting these kids into school that's built for 740,
can
if we
do it.
have 760, will be a lot nicer.
If the grade 7 is the first year that the freshmen move in, is the 8th grade then sophomores then?
Yeah, the 8th grade would be sophomores the first
And
year.
then the grade 9 would be juniors?
You're right. And grade,
So that number adds up to about 8, maybe I'm wrong, but.
yeah, but Mike, you lose
15%.
You lose.
anyway.
Well, this year we didn't lose that many.
No, I'm gonna do that calculation. It's typically around 12%
Yeah,
that we lose.
you lose about
You already
12%.
lost your 12% on those 2 grades already.
No,
No,
grade
you
7.
lose them every time
Grade
they
7 and
transition.
8. When 8 goes up to freshman, you lose
No, but 9
12%.
and 10 you've
Oh,
already
9 and
lost.
10. Yeah, 9 and 10. That's
So
pretty
actually,
stable.
it's a smaller loss than you think it is.
Right. So
Right.
the first few years, you're going to be a little bit over that 740 number, maybe a lot over it.
I have
But
816.
But it's spreading those around a number of classrooms that are twice as big as the classrooms we have now.
Right.
And we won't find those kids. They'll be lost in the big space.
we won't have a Linfield situation
No.
where they had to build an addition about 2 years after they did their major project over
But
there.
again, that was based on
Right.
what they had to do, same as us. I mean,
right.
740 was the enrollment that we were
Right.
told that we had to.
Mm-hmm,
No, 811. 811.
that's correct.
And then it does, once you get past this current grade 1 and the current kindergarten, although we may see a little increase from kindergarten to first grade, because last year we had 150 in kindergarten, this year we have 159 in first grade.
Correct.
But we are seeing much lower numbers now at the early elementary levels. So it all works out as they come through. And what did we build the middle school for?
640,
40,
630.
38, something, 630 something.
630, because it was
That's really-
1370 total.
Right, 630,
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
740 and 630.
Okay.
I think the interesting one is that first year at the high school when you have 811 almost.
Yeah. Well, you probably have a little.
Almost 100
Yeah.
kids more.
Well, we'll see how many we actually have, but, you know, I think if we have to accommodate an extra 50 or 60 kids, I think.
As long as it's a short term.
Believe me, I'm not even worried about that right now.
I'm not worried. I'm just saying that the school is, you know, as long as it's a short-term issue, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. And it does look like it's going to be a short-term issue, unless we have this, you know, huge uptick in school-aged population, which I don't anticipate. Okay. Anything else?
Under-
Administrative report?
Yes, I did distribute an administrative report to you earlier this evening. Attached, you will find a 2012-13 school committee meetings presentation schedule. One of your goals for this year under educational program is to increase the number of curriculum and instruction presentations to the school committee. So on this page, you will see that we have pretty much filled in all of the meeting spaces that were left open with presentations. What's new to this schedule that was not previously there is on October 22nd, there will be a special education program evaluation presentation to the school committee. You recall last spring, we had an evaluation conducted by Walker Partnerships, and so the two gentlemen that conducted that evaluation will be here to present findings to you. On November 5th, Patrick Daly will be back to present the 2012 MCAS analysis report. On December 3rd, Foundations presentation will be made. On January 14th, no Adam presentation. On March 18th, an update on bullying prevention and intervention as requested. And then on May 6th, we'll have a K-12 iPad pilot year 2 presentation made to the committee. We still have May 20th open, so if you'd like me to put something in there, I would be happy to do so.
How about a school committee talent show?
I'd love that.
You know,
I'm trying to think what Jerry's talent would be.
a stand-up comedian, you kidding me?
Technology.
You know, oh yeah, Jerry would do a technology presentation. That's
Demonstration.
the no.
Oh, there's the comedy, huh?
The No Adam, I follow the No Adam company on Facebook, and it's interesting. The city of Lynn has seen drastic improvement in their science MCAS scores, and they're giving a lot of the credit to the No Adam program for improving
Great.
science at school. So I'm looking forward to hearing that. So.
And do not be surprised if you'll be called to actively engage in some of the activities that are conducted through these presentations, but they'll be nice. The second item on the administrative supplemental report is each one of you received a copy of a piece of research that was done by Ms. Gloria Mastro on the life of Mr. Joseph Turner Hood, Jr. And as you know, one of our schools is named after him. Mr. Bowers already received his copy last year, so he did not receive one this evening. But I saw her at town meeting, and she wanted to make sure that I handed each one of you this folder that she had prepared. It is quite interesting. He had quite a very involved life. What you also find in this supplementary report is the North Reading High School Advanced Placement Score historical data. And I just wanted to give you just a brief overview of what you see in front of you. In terms of the number of seats of those students that participated in the AP exam, you'll see in 2012 we had 297 seats. Of course, I'm calling them seats as opposed to students because some students take more than one AP class. So it's not 297 different students, but 297 seats. That's 75 more seats than we offered or that participated in 2011. And just to give you a little update, what you'll see for 2013 is that we currently have 340 seats filled for an additional 43 more seats than 2012. So our students are really taking advantage of these AP courses that are offered in the district.
That 68% number, is that the percentage of students eligible to take AP courses?
No, it's over 3.
That's the scores. That's the next piece I wanted to report to you.
No, wait. Oh, scores over 3. Okay.
It was over 3. I
So
think.
the scores over 3.0, which are 3.0 is considered a qualifying score for college credit or class waivers where accepted. You can receive a score of anywhere from 1 to 5. So 3 is considered a qualifying score. So in 2012, 203 or 68% of our students scored 3 or
That's
higher.
excellent.
It represents a steady increase since 2004 and 8 percentage points higher than 2011. 18 percentage points higher than 2010. So in 2012, 15 different AP exams were offered, as compared to 9 in 2011 and 8 in 2010. So again, we're increasing the opportunities for students. Students decide whether or not they choose to participate, and we're able to offer them these courses. And we've increased them over each of the last 3 years. So if you take a look at some of the scores, in 2012, in chemistry, the number of students that took the chemistry exam was the highest that it's been in 9 years, with 34 students participating in chemistry. In US Gov, we had 35 students. That's the highest in the last 9 years. Psychology, we had 24 students, again, highest number. And in Calculus BC, we had 18 students participate.
Scores, wow, that's nice.
In 2012, the average highest score over the last 8 years took place in English Lit, Calculus AB, Psychology, Spanish, and Calculus BC. And what's notable about 2012 is the average score above a 3 took place in 10 out of 15 of the AP courses that were offered. So that's pretty significant. 2/3 of the AP courses offered had an average score of 3 or above. What's not running this year is AP Government and AP Environmental Science and AP World History, and that's based solely on enrollment. So this year we have 13 AP courses with 340 seats enrolled in 2012-13.
Now, I see this 3 in 1 here. Are those students who just took the test but we didn't offer the courses?
That's correct. Very good observation. We offered exams but no courses in economics, statistics, and Calculus BC. We had a teacher that would meet with 18 students during Power Block to help prepare them, but that was not an official course.
Pretty high scores for not having
Very
an
high
official course.
scores.
Just curious, I know there's obviously a lot more selections than there were in previous years, but is there any basis for the big drop-off in the English literature and the biology?
Yes, very good question.
Yeah.
Because you'll see, and well, you don't see this, but in 2012, we offered 2 English AP classes, English Lit and English Language.
Okay.
So the numbers dropped just in the English Lit that had been offered the previous year. And previously, we only offered biology as an AP course in science.
Yeah, because that was always the most popular.
Right, we offered environmental science, so look at the numbers in environmental science last
Right,
year.
good.
So students had a choice around which science AP
Did you
they wanted
say
to
that
take.
you're not running
Environmental science is not running this year because of low numbers, so our biology enrollment is up again.
It must be, yeah.
Yes.
41 in the
Yeah.
class.
That's
It's
what.
interesting.
We are offering statistics. We have 64
That's a great
students
course.
enrolled in
AP
statistics
stats.
this year. So we offer 3 sections of statistics,
AP.
whereas last year we only had 1 student take the AP.
Is it 1 AP level, 1 AP section and 2 honors, or 3 AP
No,
sections?
3 AP, 64 students.
Computer science, none.
We are offering it
That's great.
This year.
for the next year.
Okay.
Next
One,
year.
and I can guarantee if you take a computer science AB, you can get a job.
Yes.
Right out of
Right
undergrad.
out of high school,
Right
you
out
kidding
of
me?
undergrad.
Mr.
Guaranteed.
Bernard's going to be coming in, as he does every year, talking about adding new courses, and AP
Yeah.
computer programming is one of them.
Do you know what the percentage was for percentage of students taking AP courses out of the eligible, which would be sophomores, juniors, and seniors? Do you know what that percentage is?
I do not.
Because the Globe had a story, and they had it up to, I think, 2010, and we were at about 50% in
With the
2010.
students.
50% of students eligible were taking AP courses, which was pretty high. The top 15, the lowest one in the top 15 had like 55 or 56. So we were in, getting into that
Okay.
top category in
I do
terms of
not
number of
have
students
that
taking
number.
it. Okay. This is impressive. The scores look good,
Except physics.
except
I don't know
physics.
what the heck's
Physics,
happening.
it's always a tough, I
Yeah.
was talking to Mr. Madon about this, the physics class. They're actually taking a look at Physics BC because they believe that that test may be a better match to what's taught.
What we're teaching.
I do agree, it's interesting compared to chemistry. I would have thought chemistry would be on the low side
Yeah.
of physics.
Well, I thought both of them would be.
But it's
For
historically
me,
low.
yeah, for me, that would be
Except for physical education,
physical education, yeah.
Key is to think of it as science.
Science, yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Moving through the report, I just wanted to make it known, as I said I would do, that there had been a proposed charter school that had included North Reading. It was called the Asia Pacific Charter School, and they were not invited to move forward by the DESC to submit a full application. Only 12 out of the 22 were invited, and Asia Pacific was not one of them. And finally, just a reminder, tomorrow, October 10th, our district attorney, Jerry Leone, will make a presentation to juniors and seniors at the high school tomorrow on the dangers of texting and driving, and that begins at 10:30 in the auditorium.
Great. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, good, Karen.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Jerry at 9:15. I'm in trouble. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
We turned into the selectmen now.
Sorry, Bob. Sorry, Bob.